Welcome to another Saturday Wheel of Time video. This week I want to do everything the show should change from the books or can change from the books. Because let's be honest, it's a different medium. It's going to have to make some changes. And first I'll say, I understand everyone's hesitancy towards any type of changes, as you see from what happened the last few seasons of Game of Thrones when they didn't have any source material to go over. But I mean, the obvious counter arguments are, one, just things have to be different in a different format. And two, there was a lot of great changes that the show had made in the early seasons, like the Tywin and Arya scenes at Harrenhal. Oh, it should have been Roose Bolton. Like, no one, I don't think any Game of Thrones fan, someone who, I think the books are fantastic, some of my favorite all time, I would not argue that the Arya Roose Bolton scenes are better than the Arya Tywin scenes from the book. Or from the show. I mean, it's just, those are fantastic. All the Tywin scenes, Tywin giving it to Joffrey, Tywin giving it to Cersei. You know, Tywin was a great character in the show, great character in the books too, but they really utilized him well in the show. So I'd like to see more of that. And, you know, again, I understand when there's no source material to go over, you could get season 8 of Game of Thrones, which, as we've covered before, is a war crime. At the very least, a war crime against humanity, something really bad. Someone should be in jail for that. Okay, so the first thing I say they should change is some of the relationships, romantic ones. Great relationships in between characters in the Wheel of Time. What I will say about Robert Jordan in the Wheel of Time is, I mean, I've been criticizing a bit just because there's a vacuum there, but I do love the books. Some of my favorite all time. I will go on record saying there are no bad Wheel of Time characters. There's two areas where the Wheel of Time is just sort of unbeatable on, and that's sort of characters and character development and world building. The world is so fully realized. You get the history. You get everything there. It's near perfect. And all the characters are great. And the last video I made was even defending Gawain as a character. So there are no bad characters. There are some, plot lines that I hope they drop, Van Luca. But I don't think Van Luca is a bad character. I just think that the plot is unnecessary. And that will be okay. That's okay. Spoiler alert, one of the changes is just cut the whole circus thing. Circuses are expensive to film. You don't need elephants and stuff. You can get those characters in another way, make up something new, have fun, be whatever. We don't need Elaine and Nynaeve tumbling around in the circus. They can just get to amass them on a different way. All right, so relationships, romantic relationships. Now, insta love is one of the things that bugs me the most about the Wheel of Time, or like the, not so even insta love, but like the overly subtle love. I mean, Robert Jordan is simultaneously the most detail-oriented, over-detailed writer and the most subtle writer of all time. Like, I don't know how he did both. It's truly an accomplishment, but some of the relationships, I mean, like, who can honestly say it their first time through Eye of the World, they're like, when Nynaeve said, Lan, I love you, who was like, oh, saw that coming. No one saw that coming, right? And that's not even the most one. Like, I mean, I'll get into another one, like, spoiler alert, if you shouldn't, spoiler alerts to, book 13 here, but like Tom and Moraine, I didn't even catch that on my second time through. Okay, so I would be okay if they redid some of the romantic relationships. One of the things I even brought up is some of the Rand relationships. Like, I know it's not canon that Elaine and Aviendha have a romantic relationship in between each other, but I actually think it would be a good thing that they could really add to both their characters, especially on the TV show, to add in a Aviendha-Elaine relationship, because Elaine's love with Rand is just like, I'm thinking about Rand, and that's like the girlfriends of Rand, except Min is like, Rand, like, you just get their point of view and they're like, I love Rand, and it's clearly the weakest point, but I think you can actually do something really interesting with Elaine and Aviendha, sort of growing this. It would also make their first sister thing a bit more meaningful. You would get a sort of good view of, you can make the more prudish Andorian culture versus the Aiel, but in different ways. It would be a great way to sort of explore cultural development and Elaine and Aviendha's personal development. I actually think you could do a lot there. And some of the other relationships, either just like cut them or make them make more sense. Like, instead of just like, and I saw her face and I'm a believer, cut that out. Like, make people earn it. All right, and then on this sort of topics, tangentially, what I think they should add more of is the sort of politics and the Das Dothmar, or take it away. I mean, one of the plot lines I think a lot of people hate is the Elaine and the Andorian throne, which a plot line I actually like. I think it adds a lot of one of the best parts of the Wheel of Time is the cultural development. And I think sort of the play for the Andorian throne does a great job of sort of showing the difference of Andor. And I do like this thing of like, you can't just give a throne to a woman and she has to take it. And that's not how Andor works. And I get Rand's point of view is just like, like this is all stupid and political stuff. Like, Elaine's the next queen. It's her daughter. Like, this, like, there's a last battle. Let's just go. Like, there's bigger fish to fry here. But like, that's not how Andor works. I thought it added some flavor to the world. And I love political interplay. I was a bit spoiled because I read, Game of Thrones before all this, and A Song of Ice and Fire. I'm just going to Game of Thrones. No series has ever really compared to the level of political intrigue in Game of Thrones. And Wheel of Time is good sometimes, but like nowhere near great. So I think that's something the show can really help with. Like, I can really play up the political intrigue, do sort of scenes, especially in Kyrian, which is sort of famous for this. You can really then show Tom and Moiraine, and I think that'd be a better way to show this sort of mutual respect building between the two of them. If you sort of, flesh out the Kyrian plot a bit more, add in a bit more political intrigue, maybe you can up the things, kill a few side characters, don't die. I mean, I think there's a lot to do there with the Kyrian Dazdoc, like the Game of Houses plot, and I think there's a bit more of an appetite for game with the sort of Game of Thrones success. So I will say I think they should change and sort of I'm saying sort of add more political interplay. I think it's a risk. I think it's worth I think if it plays out, it would be well worth the risk, and I think it could really help the series. One of the things that the showrunners talked about, Rafe Jenkins, is he really likes Logain. This is a change that I totally agree with. More Logain, more Black Tower. Logain is the most underutilized character. Every scene he's in is great because seeing his point of view is really helpful, especially the Black Tower thing. And I mean, in the back half of the books, if there was like 5 to 10 Logain POV chapters in the last half of the last 7 books, I think the series would have been, it would have taken it to just another bonus level. But I mean, it is what it is. Okay, this is like major spoilers, so I won't even say it in case people are watching this far. But like, if you haven't read all the books, like turn off the video now. But there is a character, you can watch this. There's a character that doesn't die in the last battle that delivers the most badass line, let's say, of the last battle, and they should have died. I'm saying, like, in the show, after they say that, and I think the character arc would have just made much more sense. His relationship with his woman would have made, a lot more. It would have been more tragic. I think it would have upped the stakes in the other part of the last battle with, him dying. I mean, I was really happy that he survived, but I knew, like, when I did him, like, he should have died. It would have been like much more emotional. It would have made his whole sort of, prophecy of like, I'm just giving you a grave for my love. Like, it would have had some very interesting questions. Like, was that worth it? Was that relationship worth it? It would have been, I think it would have just been a much added in a whole other thing. He should have died, especially after delivering that line, like one of the most badass lines in all of fantasy book history. Should have gone out. Should have died. Okay, then the other one, yes. Deport Van Lucas Circus. Deport it. Again, Van Lucas isn't a bad character. As someone who started in stand-up comedy, like, I get it, the showmanship, but, like, we don't need that plot line. We don't need the plot line. We don't need Elaine learning to tightrope walk. Like, we don't need any of that. None of that. We don't need any of that. And then, okay, my last thing is things they can change. Like, I hope they go with 13 Forsaken, but I kind of get if they streamline the Forsaken a bit. Like, what did Bilal do other than get, like, pwned by Moiraine right away? And it's, hard with them coming back in and, like, the new forms. That might be a bit hard to do. So I get if they sort of change up the way the Forsaken are. I don't think 13 is, like, a sacred number, and, like, what does Masana really add to the books? Okay, I can get that. So Expendable, I hope they don't do the Forsaken, but I could see it. I won't riot. The other thing is, the kin. I won't riot. I hope it's in there, but it's one of those, like, that's an expendable plot line for time. You can figure. I think you can make the show work without the kin. At the same level, the Sea Folk should be in it, but I get if you sort of streamline a bit of the Sea Folk stuff, because what did they end up doing? Like, holding the Bowl of Wind at the last battle? But again, I guess the books kind of streamline the Sea Folk as well, so it's the same thing. The Morghese plotline. think it's more interesting. But especially makes Godwin more interesting if Morghese is dead. You know, yeah, I mean, you can kill her. You can kill her. I mean, especially if they're going to streamline a lot of the Children of Light and sort of combine Padre and Nail into whatever. Like, I get characters going to be combined, and that way, like, you know, you can just hate Ravine more if he kills Morghese. Like, I like the character of, like, she's so strong, she gets out of compulsion and all that. But, you know, I think it would make more people a bit more Godwin sympathetic, which, Lord knows, everyone needs. So those are, I think, the things that can be changed, because things have to change. It would be nice, you know, this is if you know, watching the show, you get something new. It's like Game of Thrones. Like, as I said, I'm so happy, you know, season 2 had those Tywin Arya moments, and then the Tywin anyone moments. Anytime, you know, anytime Tywin was on screen with someone who wasn't in the books, and they added a Tywin scene, it was magnificent. So, and I really think they can sort of do that with, like, Tom and Moraine, and sort of the politics. They can add new things, take some risks. I'm happy with that. They can change that. And as I said in my thing on the races, like, they can change people's races, except Lanfear. I think Lanfear is the only one who's, like, race you can't change. The things you have to keep, I'll say this, just say it now, is the genders of the characters and the culture. Like, the culture shouldn't change, and the gender shouldn't change because of the Wheel of Time. But, like, if Min is Swahili, like, who cares? That's all I have to say. Yeah, so those are the things you can change. Next week I'll do the things that they absolutely have to keep, like, other than the obvious. But thanks everyone for watching, and next Saturday we will do something fun. Oh, also, yeah, comment if there's a fantasy series with amazing politics that I haven't read, let me know, because I'd like to, because I really enjoyed that part of Game of Thrones, and I guess that's what I do with most of my life anyway. All right, goodbye.